Hi, I'm Neff, and in this video I am going to show you my process for creating a website using Jekyll and GitHub. It's also an opportunity for me to use this video as a reference and also share my process with anyone else that's interested. So let's jump in. So before we get started, you want to make sure that you have a Jekyll template that you like, and I'll point you to some resources on where to find those. Open up a GitHub account if you don't have one already, and also open up an account with a domain registrar like Namecheap, which is what I use, and buy and have a domain ready to go. So let's jump in here. So the first thing that we need to do is create a new repository. So I'll go ahead and Beffer, way cooler than Neffer, and put a description. And if you can actually create a free website using, but it has to be a public repository. I pay for private repos, so I'm going to go ahead and select private for this particular example, and I'm also going to initialize this repository with a README file. And to ignore, I'm going to enter Jekyll. So any sort of like Jekyll specific folders or files will be ignored when we deploy to our repository, to our live website. So let's go ahead and create this repository. Awesome. So the next step is to clone this repository in our local environment. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to Finder. So here's where I keep all my GitHub folders, or all my GitHub repos. And I'm just going to open up a terminal window and then go to my main GitHub folder. And here's where we want to clone it. So we'll do git clone, and then we'll just paste what we copied from here. So we'll do git clone. And so what's happening now is that we're cloning the remote repo that we just created in our GitHub account. So what we should see is this new folder here. Awesome. So now we have a local repo that we can work with, where we can now push any changes that we create on the website over to our GitHub repository. So the next step now, so we literally have almost nothing in our local repository aside from this README file. So the next thing we need to do is find a template and that we want to use, or you can use your own code. But since I'm lazy and really want to get started on building my content, I found a really cool template that I like to use from the kind folks at Cloud Cannon. So these guys have about I don't know, like 10 or 12 different templates that you can use for your own use, which is pretty awesome. So I went ahead and downloaded this one already. So all you need to do is go here, download the zip. And there's probably different ways to do this, but this is how I did it. I just downloaded the zip folder, and then I saved it over to my desktop. And here we go. So I'm just going to copy all of these files, go back to my local repository, and I'm just going to copy and paste all those files. Cool. So the next thing we want to do is we want to push these new files that we just added in our local repo to our remote repo in GitHub. So the first thing I like to do is do kind of like a status check to make sure everything Everything looks good. So it looks like this is exactly why I do this. I'm in the wrong folder. So I actually need to go into my local repository that I actually want to work in. So that's this one. So let's go ahead and make sure we have our files. Awesome. So now I'll do a get status. All right, cool. So this looks good. So these are all the files that we just added, all the files and essentially the folder structure from the template that we want to use. So these are all new files and folders, and so that looks good. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to add all of those files and folders, and then we want to commit them. Now let's call this base theme. Cool. And the next thing we want to do is we want to push those, push them to our remote repo. So we'll go ahead and do that. Git push origin master. All right. So let's go to our remote repo, which is here. Go ahead and refresh it. Awesome. So got updated about 30 seconds ago with our new files and folders. Awesome. So all of that looks good. So the next step is to create a new branch called GH-Pages, and that's where our GitHub Pages or our website is going to live. So I'm not sure why, but we have to put essentially all the files and folders that make up the website into a unique branch called GH-Pages. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So let's go ahead and create that branch. And then we'll go back to our terminal and we'll do git fetch to fetch our new branch. And cool, so it looks like it recognized a new branch, it brought it in. So now we need to switch, we need to check out that branch so that we can start making changes to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do git checkout and it'll be GH-Pages. All right, cool. So it looks like we are switched to the new branch. And the next thing we want to do is we want to add a CNAME record or a CNAME file so that we can put our domain in there. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can do this a variety of different ways. I like to just open up my editor and create a new file within it. So we'll call it CNAME. It has to be in all caps. And here, you'll put in your domain. Cool, let's save that. Let's go back to our terminal. And here, let's check status. Awesome, so recognize the new file name. So let's go ahead and push that to our remote repo. So we'll do git add, git commit, and we'll put we'll say add CNAME, and we'll do git push origin GitHub Pages. All right, cool. So let's jump back to our GitHub account. Make sure you're in the branch, in the right branch, and let's refresh that. All right, cool. So the last commit was 21 seconds ago, so that looks good. Here's our file. So now we need to jump over to our settings and make sure that everything's cool. Awesome. So it looks like GitHub recognized our custom domain, which is nice. It did that for us automatically. And so that looks good. So So the next thing you need to do is you need to configure your domain registrar to make sure that your domain name, in this example, neferlopez.com, is pointing to GitHub servers so that it knows where all your website assets live, so it could direct anyone searching for your website to the right server. Otherwise, it's going to be like a park domain or something like that. So so what you'll need to do is create a couple of A records and a CNAME record, and it needs to be in this configuration. So this is within the documentation in GitHub. I'll put a reference in this video. And anyways, this is what it looks like. I've already done that for my particular domain. This is actually for a friend's domain here. But the configuration is exactly the same. And the reason I'm not showing you my particular domain is because I forgot I'm using Cloudflare, and it uses kind of different domain pointing. So anyways, this is essentially the configuration that you need to use GitHub and Jekyll for your website. So let's go ahead and go to my website and let's see if the changes were made. Yes. So everything is working. I have my template up. Now I can start kind of making tweaks and changes. And a couple of caveats I want to point out. I've noticed in the past with Cloud Canon themes, there's usually some functionality that doesn't quite work because I think there's like a plugin issue. I don't think you can use plugins within GitHub for security reasons, of which I have no idea what that means. But you're able to use the full functionality of what the template was meant to be capable of within Cloud Canon system. So as an example, I'll show you this. So here, there's supposed to be this really cool like scroll spy navigation section. And if we go to the full version, in Cloud Canon's version, this is what it looks like. And it's really cool because, you know, it does this fancy animation. So there's that. The other thing is that it takes time for your domain registrar to point the A records and CNAME records to GitHub. And it varies quite widely from website to website. Usually it doesn't take more than 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes a lot longer. And it's probably dependent on your service as well. So you might be using GoDaddy or some other service. I'm not sure what their process is, but that's something to be aware of. It won't just happen immediately. There's something called DNS propagation, and it could kind of slow down your results or your speed to which getting your website is going to happen. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any comments, any questions, I'd love to hear it. And see you on the next video.